There is a GOP candidate in Missouri who is running for a Senate seat. His name is Cortland Sykes. And he is very open about the fact that he looks ridiculous in that photo, among other things. He also has been posting some negative things about Democratic women on his Facebook page. And this is one of the images he posted that's been getting a lot of heat. He makes the argument that Democratic women dress like Disney villains because they want to be Disney villains. And so he got pushback on that. And here's the way he reacted to it. After seeing the way Democrats have attacked strong conservative women like Kellyanne Conway, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and our First Lady, our campaign rightfully pointed out that Democrats are acting and dressing like Disney villains. If Democrats like Claire McCaskill, who by the way he would run against if he won in the Republican primary, don't want to be compared to Disney villains, then they should stop emulating them. What? So conservatives attack Democratic women constantly, and I'm not talking about voters and private citizens, okay? I'm talking about public figures. So let's take the private citizens out of it because yes, private citizens have said despicable things about first ladies, whether they're conservatives or liberals, and it's wrong, but they're private citizens. When it comes to public figures, people on the conservative side will go on the record saying some of the most horrendous things about Democratic women. Think about what happened with Michelle Obama. I have a bunch of examples for you. Case in point, let's go to Glenn Beck talking about the way Michelle Obama dressed while Obama's administration was in power. Take a look.
The most Marie Antoinette I have ever seen of anything with Michelle Obama. Did you see the dress she was wearing while she went down and toured the oil spill? Did you see it?
I did not.
This is good stuff.
Okay.
She looks like, who pulls this dress out of the closet and says, you know what, I think I'm going to go tour the oil, because I can relate. It's a designer dress, all white, that has black splotches.
So you don't think she was appropriately dressed for the oil spill?
I think this is an outrage. This is like,
it's an outrage.
Oh, it's absolutely.
Her dress was an outrage.
It's an outrage. Look at the dress.
You guys.
Okay.
But
right.
I'm so baffled by that. What was wrong with that dress?
I don't know. I guess they thought she was trying to make a statement because it looked like there were black splotches on her dress. They thought that it was supposed to represent the oil. I have no idea.
Before they went to the picture, I thought that the way he set it up, that she was going to be in a gown. Like she came out of the oil spill in like a wedding dress or something. What the hell is he talking about?
In 2009, there was literally a debate among media figures in regard to whether or not it was appropriate for Michelle Obama to show her arms, to wear sleeveless clothing, okay? I'll give you some more examples. Here is a photo of Michelle Obama wearing a beautiful red dress I believe it was in 2010. It was some sort of White House event.
You say beautiful red dress, I say outrage.
No, but there were people who were outraged by it. Jim Hoft is an example, criticized not only the color the First Lady chose to wear, calling the event the commie red China Obama State Dinner, but also the fit of the gown. He thought it fit her in a bizarre way.
I don't even know what that means. Does that mean it was too tight, too loose?
I also don't know.
Did he perv out on it? Well, why is he checking out the fit of the dress?
And then finally, of course, Rush Limbaugh had things to say about Michelle Obama. Here's what he had to say about her weight, which was strange.
Come on.
Yes.
Come on now.
No. Let me read you his quote. It doesn't look like Michelle Obama follows her own nutritionary dietary advice. I'm trying to say that our First Lady does not project the image of women that you might see on the cover of Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue or of a woman Alex Rodriguez might date.
Is that the new standard? What? So would Alex Rodriguez have dated Barbara Bush?
I just don't get it.
I'm not saying anything. I mean, God bless you, Barbs, but okay. They're so insane. And how could you sit there? Look, when I make fun of Chris Christie, when Jimmy eggs me on to make fun of Chris Christie, I make note that I live in a glass house on that issue and we're similar. But if I were to make fun of Brad Pitt or something, be like, get a load of that guy's weight.
I know. That is such a good way of putting it because Michelle Obama was cut. Like she had these insanely toned arms, and I loved when she wore sleeveless shirts. Like it inspired me. Like I need to get on it. But yeah, look, she was criticized by those on the right very openly. These were public figures. It was incessant. And for anyone who criticizes the first lady, whether she's a conservative or liberal or progressive, whatever, just don't do it. Don't do it. Okay, you might hate the president, but it doesn't mean that you get to go on and attack their family members. Usually, the first lady is super benign.
Okay, I thought they were in favor of guns. Michelle Obama had guns. If you become a member of the Young Turks, you'll be saying,
you know, I'm like a smart person.
So do it right now. TYTnetwork.com/join. Get the whole Young Turks show every day.